Welcome back to the homestead. It's been pretty chilly out, so we've been having a lot of fires in our wood stove lately. One of the things that you need to do as maintenance when you have a wood stove is to make sure that you clean your chimney. So because we have such a tall chimney, we've had to come up with a different system. And Ryan's going to explain that to you in just a minute on how we plan to clean this without making a huge mess in our living room. As you can see, Sprite really enjoys sleeping next to the wood stove. So it's pretty important that we keep it up and running. So we'll bring you back in just a second and Ryan will tell you all about our plans.
All right, so as Sue mentioned, one of the challenges we have, or a couple of them, this ceiling is about 13.5 feet off the floor. So the stovepipe itself is pretty easy. We take the screws out of the stove down here, we lift the pipe up a couple inches, slide it out, and it slides off a connector right there where Sue's finger is, and we take the stovepipe outside and clean it. Now, the chimney is a metal asbestos, triple wall, that goes up through the roof, and it's about 9 to 10 feet long. So we got a brush that we'll show you in a minute out in the shop, and basically you run that brush up through and you run it up and down and you loosen all the stuff off the side of the chimney that falls out. Well, that would make a considerable mess in here in the house. So I've got an idea, and my idea is using a bucket and a vacuum cleaner and a few other things. And part of it is predicated around the fact that Sue can reach out there easily and hold a bucket around the bottom of the chimney. So why don't we go out in the workshop, out in the woodworking shop, and I will show you my idea, and we'll actually fabricate this concoction or contraption, and then we'll come back once the wood stove goes out and cools off and clean the chimney. So let's get out in the workshop and let's see what we can make. All right, so now that we're here in the shop, we're going to show you how we're going to take care of the problem that we just talked about in the living room as far as cleaning the chimney. So our plan, or my plan, is to use this bucket. So anybody that's familiar with cleaning a chimney sort of knows the tools that are needed. You have these kind of like flexible fiberglass rods, and then you have this brush. Let's get this brush opened up here. So I'll show you what we're doing. A little tough one-handed, so bear with me. Sue's not available right at the moment. She's busy with something. So I'm doing my own camera work. So there's our brush. It's made to go inside a 6-inch diameter chimney. Round chimney, that's important. So when you're getting your brush, make sure if you've got a square tile, you get a square brush. If you've got a rectangle, you get a rectangle. Get it to match the chimney. And I guess we could read the side in English. There we go. Premium chimney brush, 6-inch round. So what you would normally do is you would screw the brush onto this rod. Let me do that and I'll show you what it looks like. Again, one-handed. Okay, so there it is. It's screwed on the rod. So let me actually set you guys up right over here. Let's try this. Let's see what we get for a field of view. Now that's perfect. Okay, so what you would normally do is you would take your stovepipe off the stove, like we talked about in there. You'd take this and you'd slide it up in the chimney like this, and you just work it up and down and keep going up higher, working it up and down, and you'd screw more of these on as you go. Of course, all the stuff from the chimney is going to be falling out, and I'm like, I don't really want that in the living room. I don't want the dust, I don't want the mess. So my thought, my idea, if you will, is to take this bucket and drill a hole in the bottom of it for the rod to fit through, and then drill another hole in the side of it for the vacuum cleaner to fit through. And then what we'll do is, like, Sue can reach out of her office and hold that bucket right up against the chimney, up against the ceiling like that, with the vacuum cleaner running, and I can run the rod from down below and run the rod up and down, so all of the debris falls in that bucket and gets vacuumed up by the vacuum cleaner and no mess in the house. Seems really logical on paper. So we're gonna set you up right over here so you can watch me modify this bucket, and then we'll go give it a try and see if we can make it work. The biggest end is this end, the female end. So that's gonna have to fit through the bottom of our bucket in order to do what I want to do. So we're gonna go ahead. We have one of these step bits that drills multiple sized holes. And we're gonna go ahead and start that. I'm gonna go just off center just a little bit. And this bucket has a crack in the bottom of it. So that's the reason I picked this bucket. I'll try not to knock the lights out. Not quite enough. It's gonna want to be a little loose because I'm gonna have to get these joints through there while Sue holds the bucket. See? And that's gonna fit through there just like that and allow me to sweep the chimney. And yeah, I think some might come out around that hole. I'm not too worried about that. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a hole on the side of it. Yeah, I think the side. I'm debating on the bottom of the side, and I don't think it really matters because if she holds this pretty tight to the ceiling, the vacuum's gonna create a vacuum, and I think it's gonna suck it over. So we're gonna go on the side. It's a very sharp drill bit, in case you didn't notice. Alright. I think that hole saw, hey, be ready for the garbage. So then my thought is, that goes in there just like that, and it almost screws in. Except for this really isn't. So, we'll probably have to come up with a good way to hold that in there. It's probably going to be duct tape, just so you'll know. But my theory is that now that goes right up against the ceiling like that with the vacuum running, and all Sue has to do is hold that while I brush the chimney, and that should catch all the dust and debris. Now we probably could have just done just this one hole and not hooked a vacuum up to it, and I bet it would have still caught like 90% of it. But my thinking is with the vacuum cleaner that's really going to help and keep all the dust out. And of course the stovepipe we can just take right outside and brush that outside. You know, we can gently take that out so we don't make a mess. It's really just the chimney. So hold on while we get set up, get a step ladder in there and get everything ready. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean this chimney and see how it works. All right, so now we're inside. We're going to go ahead and start the process of cleaning the chimney. The first thing we have to do is take the stovepipe out, and we're going to take that, we're going to actually open the garage door now, so when our hands are full, we don't have to deal with that. And in our case, it has a handful of self-tapping screws right here at the bottom. We're going to remove those and just expertly catalog them somewhere on the floor. And that's really it. Now, the top up there is a dripless adapter that goes in the metal Bestis chimney. And this pipe slides over the dripless adapter, and that way if there's any ever creosote running, it runs in the pipe all the way down into the stove. So you'll notice that this pipe goes inside this pipe, and this pipe goes inside this pipe. So all we have to do now, in theory, is pick this up a couple inches to get out of this, and then we can slide it down out of the way. And we're gonna turn clockwise because the dripless adapter turns into the metal asbestos chimney. So if we was to turn counterclockwise, we'd unscrew the dripless adapter. Okay, we're gonna carefully get this out of the house to make as little mess as possible. And we'll clean this outside in a little bit. Now we're ready to clean the chimney. So our plan here, probably the first thing we're gonna do is get a flashlight and give you a look up in there. But our plan, as we talked about, is Sue's gonna go upstairs and hold the 5-gallon bucket with a shop vac while I run the rods from down here. Not sure how it's gonna work yet, so you guys are gonna see that firsthand. So hold on while we get all set up.
You can see that there is some buildup in there. So we're gonna clean all that off, and you can see where the top hole of the chimney is up in there.
You gotta get your tail against the ceiling. Go up over your joint. Go up over your joint. Yep. All right, so now that the chimney is done, we're gonna take the time to clean the inside and the outside of the stove and the stove area. So I'm just basically picking up the utensils here, getting them out of the way. Sue's gonna bring the vacuum cleaner down. So the first thing I'm gonna do is shovel out the ashes, and we haven't used the stove in like 3 or 4 days. So we know these are nice and cool, but we also have a metal bucket. It's pretty common. Well, I shouldn't say pretty common, but one of the things that you'll see every now and then is you see a house fire where somebody took a cardboard box, shoveled their wood stove out. They said, you know, we haven't used it in a couple days. They shoveled their wood stove out, put them in a cardboard box, and set them on the back deck or the front porch. Hot coals can stay in under these ashes for 2 or 3 days. So you really want to get yourself a metal bucket. But if you have to use a cardboard box, when you take them outside, take them away from your house. Just so that if something does catch on fire, you know, you don't end up burning your house down. And we're not going to worry about getting the inside perfectly spotless. Matter of fact, it's kind of good to have a little bit of ashes on the bottom of this wood stove just to keep the heat away from the cast iron. So now we're going to plug the shop vac in, make a bunch of noise, and just clean everything up. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is down inside here, and we'll show you this now. There's a lot of, just build up ash and soot and stuff out of the chimney. So because we haven't used this in like 4 days, we're going to go ahead and vacuum this out. Now we will go empty the vacuum cleaner a little later, just to make sure that, there's no hot ashes in here. And then we're going to take this here off, and this is your burner where you can cook on. And we're just going to keep cleaning. All right, so we've cleaned this up clean enough. You know, we've done an inspection while we're here. Just looking for any cracks or anything. This stove has no fire brick, it's all cast iron. So we're just making sure there's no cracks anywhere important. And everything looks good in this, so we're gonna go ahead and put our burner back in. We're gonna clean up just a little bit, and we're gonna get some jackets, and we're gonna go outside and clean the stovepipe. So hold on a minute, we'll bring you back when we get outside and ready to clean the stovepipe. All right, so we're outside, and we could take the damper out and run the brush all the way through. It's just not that big a deal. There's a little bit of space right here, so we're just gonna kind of close the damper. We're gonna brush this 2 feet down here, and we're gonna come over there. So basically, that's all you're doing. If the stuff is really caked on, really wet, that's a bigger problem. If you're burning really dry wood, the stuff is going to be pretty dry and just powdery. So, you want to just brush it until it's clean. And it doesn't have to be spotless, like you're not looking to be able to eat off in it. You're just looking to remove as much of the creosote and stuff as you can so that there's not a fire hazard later down the road. And we'll show you roughly how much stuff we get out of there. Not a whole lot right there. Let me tip it up and dump it out right there. So, not a terrible lot, but it was definitely due. So it's been about a year since we've cleaned it. We've probably burnt 3 cords of wood, so not real bad. Let's go back on inside and put this together. All right, so we're back in. We've got our pipe clean. Sue's up top. She's going to guide it together. I'm going to push up on it. We're going to try not to move the stove, but we may end up having to pull the stove out so we can get a straight shot back up on there. And there's our holes lined right back up. We'll go ahead and put our screws back in before you get it. And then we're going to take just a second, and I'm going to vacuum up my mess so Dog doesn't keep tracking it around. And I will keep tracking it around. Shouldn't blame Dog for everything. Alright, so as you can see, we've got the fire going. Dog is much happier now. Dog has an actual bed that we usually keep right inside the wood stove. We moved it today, obviously, because we didn't want to get soot all over it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a lot to it. The big things with wood burning is really just, follow the proper procedures and protocols. Put in a proper chimney, be it a triple line metal Vestas style chimney or a masonry chimney with a good liner. If you just bought a house and you're unsure, talk to your local fire department, find a chimney sweep. Most of your local fire departments, at least for us, are all volunteer, and they're a bunch of great guys. Like if you offer them 20, 30, 40 bucks to come out and look at your chimney, inspect it for you, they may do it for free, but I always like to donate to the volunteer fire department. So I kind of said that wrong. I'm not really trying to offer them money to come do a service for you. You can ask them, might you want to come out and look at my chimney situation, my wood stove, see if it's safe if you're not familiar with wood burning. And then when they're done, make a donation to that local volunteer fire department, because that's a lot of their money comes from donations and fundraising. But the long story short is, wood heat is a very practical, sustainable heating, if you will. Especially if you have some land, like in our case, we only have 5 acres of land. It's not huge, but still, we're clearing some trees, we're making garden spaces, and we have all the wood we're going to need for the next several years. And even after that, you can buy tree length wood from a local wood cutter. Usually for about half the price you can buy cut and split wood. And wood is just a lot cheaper than oil or electricity, generally speaking. So, plus it's really comfortable to sit around the wood stove on a cold winter day. But, you know, you kind of saw what we did. Like I say, the big things, as I mentioned earlier in the video, make sure that your brush matches the size of your chimney. If you've got a clay liner and it's like an 8x12 liner, you're going to need a brush that's shaped like 8x12. In our case, it's a 6-inch round hole, so a 6-inch brush works great. You could even, you know, if you have nothing else and you need to get it done, you could take a chain up on your roof and just kind of gently rattle the chain around while you're watching and knock everything off the side of the chimney. There's a lot of ways you can deal with it, but the big thing is to always inspect your chimney, especially if you're new to burning wood or you're new to that particular, you know, setup. Look at it quite frequently, because the last thing you want to do is get a raging chimney fire going and fire shooting out of the chimney up top. You know, if it didn't burn your house down, it could at least damage your chimney. So you kind of want to use some common sense. So we appreciate you watching. We may make some modifications to our bucket. I can see where maybe a piece of inner tube glued and screwed over the bottom of the hole so that it stays a little tighter around the rod, because you'll notice that when we drilled the hole, we had to drill it big enough for the fittings to go through, and the rod is a lot smaller in diameter. So you did see we lost a little bit of soot down through that rod hole, but in general you'll notice that most of the mess came from me bringing the stovepipe back in or us getting the stovepipe out. So we actually call the bucket a success. I feel like that we really do feel like that worked well. We could show you inside the vacuum cleaner, but there was quite a bit of stuff. I mean, probably 4 or 5 cups of stuff that would have been on the floor in the house if we hadn't done that. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Dog really likes the wood stuff.